3 minutes of video without an ad. Ridiculous. Hi, Susan. Welcome. All right. Howdy, folks. Welcome back. I told you I would be back. And I'm a man of my word, so here we go. All right, first off, let's take a peek at this date right here. This is January 1st, 2025. And while that loop's playing, I'm going to take a moment to thank you for taking a moment of your time, even in replay, to be a part of this precious family. Okay, if you make it to the end of the spiritual report here, you find out how important this family is and how precious it is, then you'll find out how precious you are to me. Okay, so let's get started here. You already saw the date one more time, January 3rd, 2025. Here's our activity, and you can see this right here was one of our first X flares coming out over here. It doesn't look like much, but there is a round object in there, very faint. So we're just going to kind of capture it right about. Okay, you can see our flow coming out, going around like this, your round objects right in this vicinity right here. Okay, and it didn't cause a big old CME, but it did spark an X flare. Okay, and you can see that it stalls for a second in one frame here. Let me scooch. See, it kind of stalls right there for a second, and then the next frames here, plasma moves on out and moves out of there. So very quick interaction with it, very ghostly, quiet, not a big CME coming off. We're backing up here, okay, to that frame. Right about there. Okay, and you can see your plasma coming out, bending and going around. There's this ghostly dark black circle right there. Okay, and you can kind of see some of the little satellite moons that are accompanying it. Okay, so there's that. All right, very sneaky. They're very hard to detect, but the flow always gives it away. So there's the object moving by very quickly, and then we have this another X flare at the very tail end, and we'll get into that in just a minute here. But first, let's come over here to our GOES X-ray flux. You can see, boom, 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 boom. Here's your two X flares right here. And then we just had an M flare going into tomorrow. So let's bounce back here really quick and open up tomorrow's. Let's refresh for every last frame we can get. All right, now you got this event going on here. Here's another little bigger object still moving out in the trailing moon right here. Okay, now over on this side, you can see we're having another event coming out of our spire region. So let's kind of pause on the opening frame here. Whoops. All right, opening frame there. Let me scooch just a tad bit more. There we go. All right, you can see it, the stretch, it's still spread out like this. This is reaching around now with the CME to go around this bigger object in the background. Here's the trailing moon right here. It always latches onto some plasma. One of these bigger ones. Okay, right about there's a good frame. I want you guys to see what's going on up here in this region. See how light is coming out, plasma coming out and bending and going back around here? As though it's reacting to something bigger in the background here. And there's a moon or a little satellite going along with it on the side of it. Now let's continue on. Boom. A little something else, little triangle type craft or something coming out right here. Wait until that passes by. Well, it's kind of hard to see because it's up at the top. And I have to use this button down below, but now it really starts to take its triangle shape. And this came out of nowhere, is it? This wasn't like a CME or interacted with the sun. It's just out here in the solar wind and starts to dip into it a little bit and leave a wake. Okay, meanwhile, we still got this little moon off to the side here doing its thing. And then coming out of this region here, your Spire region that we were talking about last night, still expecting activity out of that region. So here it comes. Boom. Last frame. So we'll take that last frame right there. Here you can see your darker center patch right here. Okay, wrapped in plasma. Your object's right in there. Okay, so another little moon, and with this bigger spread here, I bet you there's a bigger object back behind accompanying this little satellite right there. Meanwhile, you can still see this event underway over here on this side. So let me back up a couple frames, and then we'll go one more time through. Boom. That's your latest M-7 right there. So go ahead and put this back into motion. And note your little triangle ship up here. I'll kind of leave it more there so you can see that triangle structure. Okay, and you can be the judge of this. I'll let you be the judge of this. You can come over to this instrument too and click on this and check it out. I suggest you do, so you might see some other stuff that I didn't point out. Okay. All right, so there's your activity right now for the sun. Now coming back over here, I'm gonna zoom out really quick here. Let's go up to 110. There we go. All right. Your solar flux index at 200, okay? It's still in the red, but that's the last point until we go into the cautionary, into yellow. And it's down 12 points. Now that we've seen that activity going on already, we're probably going to see a decline here in sunspot numbers in a little while. So sunspot number count was up 17 points to 190, almost back into the red. Meanwhile, your area in the green. I'm still waiting for this thing to update. This is the region we're concerned with, 37 or 3947 right here. Okay, so that's the one that's been spitting out all kinds of activity lately. So coming back down to here, you saw how fluxed we were. Okay, goes X-ray flux, that is. And let me see if we can shorten this just a tad bit. Try and get less of the top of the frame in there. Okay, so you can see our three little bumps. We were already kind of zoomed in on that. We just now coming out of that M flare right there. Meanwhile, your X flare potential 15%. It should probably be a little higher, but I think we still got this one other event still to unfold here. First, the little satellites, and then the bigger object will come out over on this side or something. So we still could possibly see one more X flare or strong M flare, I think. Okay. Now, moving on. Oh, here are 3-day geomagnetic forecasts. G1 for the next couple of days here. Okay, so we got a lot of absorption coming here pretty soon, and this is going to translate into earthquake and volcano activity here soon. Well, it already is, so. Let's continue on. Here are your current auroras right here. I think this is a little bit older. It should be more over this part right now. Okay, so that was earlier today when we had our G1 storm event. Okay, it did get up to G2, a little bit higher. So another unpredicted storm that, kind of caught people. Well, not unpredicted. We're predicting G1 for today. So there's your bump right there. And now we've had an X1 and an X1.2. Okay, so there's two X flares. Our latest M was an M7.6. Okay, so it's a pretty strong one too. And we got G1 storming while having X flares. So Sun's getting active again. Meanwhile, it doesn't look like it on the sunspot list here because we only one we have is 3947 beta delta. It doesn't have the gamma component, but that's where we're still getting these X flares out of. Okay, we have 3945 beta gamma and growing, and still is 3943 beta gamma and growing. Now, the coronal mass ejection passed by Earth at 211 on January 4th, and the solar wind speed increased to near 550. The BZ component of the interplanetary planet, the IMF, pointed south. An active KP4 conditions were possible hours ahead of the G1 storm. Okay, 3947 is at it again, the second X flare of the day, and this time at X 1.1, peaking at 2241. It is still too early to tell if coronal mass ejection will be associated. However, a further update will be provided. Now, we just seen right here this plasma that's coming out right there with this, so we might see a little bit of CME coming out of there, but maybe not in our direction. All right, so I think we're done there. Yeah, let's come on over to spaceweather.com. Dr. Tony Phillips. You guys were probably just looking at this with Wages World a little minute ago. Okay, CME just hit Earth, arriving at the right time. Arriving right on time, I should say. The CME hit Earth's magnetic field on January 1st. The impact could cause G1 to minor G2, and that's what we saw was it reached a G2 for a minute there. Okay, the sun is flaring again. Sunspot 3947 is sizzling with activity, and since yesterday it has produced 2 X-class solar flares and multiple M flares. So here's all your little M flares, your 2 X flares, and then just recently we saw the M-7 that's not on this graph. So that's just your latest activity, just as we started, or right before we started the show. Each flare has produced a shortwave radio blackout on Earth too. So you can come over and read more about this, the Moon Venus conjunction, all kinds of cool articles there. But we got to move on. So let's get on over here to the Schumann. There we go. Okay, everybody hold your breath. Here we go. Voila. Yeah. This was yesterday, and it was a bumpy ride. Look at today. Jeez Louise. All right. This is all these frequencies, very intense. Okay. There's a lot of grinding going on, a lot of pressure down below. We've absorbed a lot of energy now, and the sun and the Earth's core and the shell are reacting. They're going nuts. And you see breaks in between here and little breaks right there where pressure was released, but then went right back to grinding. So very, very intense frequencies is doing a number on everybody right now. Okay. So that's also an indication of a lot of pressure down below. Okay. And it's going to make it's already starting to make its way to the surface. Now let's move on there. That's kind of hard to even look at. That's just a lot of energy there. Could cause disruptions, pain, confusion, anxiety, irritation. I've been irritable. Ugh, man, every little thing is pushing my button today. So, really rough day. High energy's going on right there. The core and the shell are just going to town. Just grinding away. All right, so let's come on over to null school now. Open this up. Close that one out. All right, here's your tropical convergence zone right here. Still kind of wonky, still a little bit north of the equator there. And that's because of thermal vents that are opening up in that region right there. Okay, let's go up to our vortexes now. Okay, our storms up to 850. Here we go. This big vortex still out there rotating around, producing storm activity, but then it rotates back around it. So meanwhile, we had this activity, vortex is rotating up here. It's still kind of there, but it's weakening. All right. We still have this flow, this atmospheric river coming onto the west coast, going right up through Oregon, Washington, along the coastline, splitting up right here. Some of it's finally making over the Sierras here. We're starting to get snow where we're at. And then a lot of it's being shunted south and wrapping back around. Let me pull back a little bit. wrapping back around this. Okay, so it's slamming up against the coast, splitting, going north, south, and a little bit of trickling going over the Sierras right there. So we still have it slightly there, but it's not a full rotating vortex. It is still feeding stuff into that region though. Okay, we'll talk about this area here in a minute. Look how it's starting to get its own rotation going on right here. Meanwhile, this is driving down a lot of cold air from Canada coming down through this region. So I'm just looking around at storm activity. That's good. All right, let's do our sandstorm really quick. Particles, dust and extinction aerosol. Wow, wonderful name. Okay, very intense plume here, spreading sand all the way across the Atlantic, covering South America. You can see that plume is just huge. It's broad, it's wide. Wind is taking it and it's throwing it all over the place now. Over here in Saudi Arabia, this sandstorm that went through Oman and Yemen is blowing out into the ocean, coming back around into Africa again here. Okay, these ones have kind of calmed down in this region a little bit. Still a little bit going on there, but wind currents have taken a lot of this up to the North Pole. Okay, so we're seeing particulates all the way up the North Pole now. Okay, these are sand, dust, fine particulates. Okay, so Australia having their own independent sandstorm. Okay, electromagnetic activity makes silicon, which is sand, holds an electric charge, making it, static electric, and it becomes not lighter than air, but lighter than usual. And then with our wind currents picking up around the world, now we're kicking up dust particulates all around the world here. Okay. Looks like this thing is shifting to over here. All right, now let's get into our SO2 report. This is a sulfur dioxide, basically vaporized magma, pushing up on the underside of the crust, trying to make it out through any kind of perforations it can, all right? So there's your SO2. There's your country divided right here. One side bleeding out on the right is porous crust, very spongy, so it has a lot of openings, and the gas just pours out. Meanwhile, on the left, the west coast has more mountainous granite, very dense structures, so the perforations are more volcanic in nature. There you go, country divided. This gas comes out of the ground so hot that it can spark fires, so we're going to check for fires right now, just in case, because uptick in pressure sometimes does uptick in plumes and heat, and we see fires kick up sometimes, but not too much right now. In the coming days, though, here, we're going to have to watch out. Okay, so there's all the SO2 emissions for America going down into Mexico. All right, they got their volcanoes, Popocatépetl going off down there. All right. Meanwhile, we got Cuba, Dominican Republic, all of these little islands right here. These are all volcanic in nature. Don, good to see you. All right. You can see that they're all volcanic in nature. They're all spewing SO2 as well. Okay, so there's that. Now, all of these sites coming down South America here are all individual sites. Okay, coming down the west coast. This area is starting to fill back in a little bit. There's one little naked spot still after earthquake activity there, either closed something up. So then we come into our fulcrum point area here. Tonight, this one not so dark, but a little bit bigger in size. This one, look how the second one is a little bit way bigger. So it's opened up some more. The fourth one that was in there is missing, kind of. And this one is, less in intensity. So something opened up bigger here. This this other opening just north of our fulcrum point here has gotten bigger. So relieving more pressure right here than usual diminishes this one, pressure transfer. So I think that's what we're seeing. Meanwhile, our other little fifth spot is hanging out there pretty well. Okay, that's just a little gauge that I use because it's always constant activity there. Meanwhile, down here, very intense emissions blowing out into the Pacific. Not too much of a plume on that side. It's more getting wrapped up in the storm on this side. Okay, so there's your SO2 emissions. Now, a few years back, there were like 4 little dots along the Sierra, and BP Earthwatch, I think, brought it to everybody's attention, and boy, everybody took notice. Well, now they're all over the planet, and hardly anybody reports on it anymore. So, but we try to cover that stuff here for you guys. Meanwhile, here we are at Hawaii. Oahu still spewing most of the SO2, even though we have a live volcano going off on Hawaii. Okay, so a lot of SO2 in the hub of the Pacific Rim. Okay, we come over to this region. We're going to back up for their time zones. And here we are, China, the bruise on the face of the planet right here. Very, very intense emissions out of this region. Some of these going linear, looking almost like a fracture, like a crack that's spewing SO2 too. So they might be having fissures in the ground over there as well that are spewing SO2. So look at this place up here north of Korea here. Okay, looking around, we always kind of check in on Taiwan. Its emissions aren't so strong tonight, not as like they were in a couple of days before, but still doing its thing there, pumping out SO2. Okay, there's Japan. It's a volcanic island chain, so it has SO2 emissions. There's Korea's up to the Kamchatka. All right, let's pull back, go over here. India following suit with China here. This gas, they're getting strong emissions. It blows up against the Himalayas here. The Himalayas being so tall that this gas can't make it over, and it recirculates around and just keeps, intensifying in its density, how dense it is, starting to get pretty nasty over there. Meanwhile, you look here in the Middle East, they're filling in as well. Saudi Arabia, all of this place is starting to open up now. We're getting so much pressure that it's SO2 and methane emissions in this region too, which are coming out of the ground on fire. Methane being a flammable gas, all it needs to do is reach the oxygen because it's already at thousands of degrees. So it's already at spontaneous combustion. All it needs is oxygen. Okay, now we come over here to Java. We're checking out our Java region. Look how much is blown out into the straits out here. So there's been a lot of emissions out of Java, and look how dark it is still without all that stuff being blown out there. So if you put all that back on there, it'd be really dark tonight. So look at Sumatra getting a little filled in there and darker too. And this is our little relief valve area. Coming down through this region, we have all of volcanic islands going on there. This island right here has 2 emission sites that act like a slow leak in the bicycle tube here at the plate boundary entrance right here. So if this were like the valve stem where pressure is going in, well, pressure is leaking out right here, keeping magnitudes and earthquake activity down in that region. We got Fiji and now Home Reef. Right out here is our new little volcanic island that's growing. Okay, it was a seamount that broke the surface of the water and now an island, and it's spewing SO2 still. All right, so there's the SO2. Now let's go ahead and come on over and do our ocean sea surface temperature anomalies for yesterday. This takes a day to compile. While we're in this region here, note the yellow going on here. There's a little vent, something, emissions going off right next to this island offshore here. Underneath Fiji here, we're having spots open up. These little spots keep popping up and closing up out here. And this magma emission, hot water, whatever's coming out is very hot, and it's heating the water, causing it to rise up to the surface and create a heat plume at the surface. Okay, all kinds of crazy activity going on around the world. There's a new one there. Coming up to Taiwan. Now, Taiwan was on the fulcrum point on the plate boundary, and it was relieving a lot of pressure in this area for the earthquakes. Well, the earthquake activity is kind of slowed down because we have a new opening on the ocean floor, a pathway of least resistance. So any pressure that builds in this area is getting vented out of that spot instead of, quaking and stuff right there. So also a little activity going over here. Look at this. Oh, look at Korea. They are in hot water. And Japan too. That whole region still a lot of volcanic activity on the ocean floor going on in that region. And here's Tamumasi area. This is really quieted down. This was our main big spot for a long time, and it's quieted down. The activity is kind of shunted more south here off of Hawaii. Okay. We also have this region that's flaring up down here, and that's causing it to reach into the LA basin, or in this LA Cove, this bay right here. More and more it's encroaching into this area. Last night we were just seeing one little red dot. Now it's creeping up this way. So that whole eyeball type structure that comes out here, goes down and around and back here. This is inside of it now, and so is that. So that's going to increase earthquake activity in this area. Now, as we go up the west coast, you can see right here, I'm going to put my little dot right there. That's where the Juan de Fuca plate comes out, runs parallel with this line, zigzags up through here. So in between, we're having heat plumes bust out through the Juan de Fuca plate right there. All right, so a lot of pressure under that region causing earthquake activity. And you see it's creeping, it's on the shore here. That means it's creeping underground here too. So we're going to see more activity out of these volcanoes. And everybody's talking about Mount St. Helens starting to wake up now. Well, you can see why, because all of this is growing underneath that region right there. Take that off now. Okay, so there's your little seamount hot water plumes for the Pacific. Let's come on over to the Atlantic here. You can see what's going on over on this region. Oh, this is what I want to point out. Here in the Gulf, we've been talking about this little spot right here. We're seeing another spot opening up here and growing in intensity. It's been there for a minute, but it was kind of small. Now it's starting to get bigger and bigger. So now we're seeing a new spot open up, getting bigger in the Gulf, where we're getting all this warm, moist air that's flowing up through the country. So this is not good. Okay, we don't need any more hot water in that bay right now, especially going into wintertime. All right, something stuck to my mouse here. All right, there we go. As we look around, some spots going on up here, reaching out into the Atlantic, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, oozing stuff out here too. Looking into the Mediterranean here a little bit, we're seeing emissions out here by Greece. Stuff going on in the Mediterranean there too as well. All right, just looking around really quick there, going on down here. We covered everybody. Let's put the wind on, because that's the critical factor here, is these plumes, hot air over hot water, cold air over cold water. Well, hot air rises and cold air rushes in to replace it, and we're getting rotation and vortex activity because of our cold heat plumes next to each other. And when a hot spot opens up or closes up, it changes these flow patterns. Okay, and our weather patterns have been following this instead of the lower jet stream. So this whole conveyor belt structure with these rotating vortexes here. Okay, let's put that right there. Just let you kind of see how cold air is rushing in to replace hot air rising. And they correlate with the heat signatures. And this activity is like I said, is taking over our weather pattern more so than the lower jet stream. All right, there's the Pacific. You can see here, there's your openings along the equator that have shunted the convergence zone a little north. Here's your conveyor belts for the Atlantic. Big rotation up here, pulling cold air from Canada down here, Let's go right like that. Okay, this huge rotation up here is bringing cold air down from Canada. So then this, you see how this is rotating now? Out in the Gulf right here. So this is rotating warm, moist air up into here, slamming it into that cold air coming down from Canada. So right in that zone is where we're going to see that icing event, and here's why. Okay, it's because of this setup right here. Really quick, let's change over to the air patterns. There's your air patterns at 850. Okay, that's the same patterns that we were seeing our wind at us at 850. Now we're going to go up to our polar vortex really quick. And you can see we still have this little bend, this little shear in our polar vortex, but it's still bringing a lot of cold air out of Canada down into that part of the country. And then I showed you closer, lower down, moist air coming up from down below, colliding with this. So there's going to be a nasty storm in that region. We've been talking about it for a minute now, and you can see why. So there's your polar vortexes. We still have this little sub-vortex going on over here, which is giving this one an odd shape. Also kind of a vortex here, more open conveyor belt, but it's the feed. It's feeding into the inflow here. So interesting configuration. We got air, from the southern hemisphere way up high, coming over the convergent zone into our polar vortex. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here soon. Okay, so there's that. And let me just show you your lower jet stream. Okay, so here's your lower jet stream for right now over this region. Okay, and that's what your storm patterns usually ride on right there. And not so much right now. Are they following that? They're following this instead. So change of pace of your weather right there. All right, now I want to leave it on the ocean thing so we can come back later during our earthquake report. So let's get into the earthquake report. And USGS. You take a cold shower? Good to see you guys here. All right, there's a earthquake map. Let's do the satellite for your viewing pleasure. All righty. Typical start right here, deep quake region, no really deep quakes for today. We do have this 4.7 at 38 on this volcanic ridge going down there. Okay, we have all kinds of heat plumes going on, in this region, and SO2 emissions keeping magnitudes and quake activity down. This is not on the plate boundary. This is a 4.4 down at 41. This is at Vanuatu here. This volcanic island. This depth is an earthquake on the flank of a volcano right here. Okay, so it's not plate boundary activity at the surface, it's a volcano. All right, we're seeing volcanic activity through that whole region. Right now, the quake activity kind of mild, 4.6 down at 126. You see, as we're absorbing right now, we go into like this quiet phase where we still have activity, but it's just really kind of hindered as we go through absorption here. So 4.864 off of Sumatra is a volcanic feature, earthquake at a volcanic feature, sign of pressure down below. 4.3 at the surface right there, finally energy being released at the surface. In the outback kind of here, Australia, that's a little odd quake. 4.5 at Broken Hill. Well, if it's a broken hill, it's probably some kind of volcanic feature. Yeah, all right. I don't have a lot of time to go through that right now. Sorry. Let's continue on. Plate boundary, 5.0, breaking energy at the surface there. Up in this region here, remember we were seeing heat coming out of this region? 4.5 down at 31. So volcanic feature right here on the flank of this little volcanic shelf right here. This is where we saw a lot of heat in that area. Now we're seeing 4.3 at the surface there too. So energy earthquakes being, happening there because of pressure building up in that region. Really quick out here, we're going to talk about this 5 on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge there, 495. You could be the judge of that. We did that one. Yeah, there's another 5. All right, I want to kind of hold this quake activity here in Africa for a second, because we're going to go a little deeper into that one tonight. Now, here's this spot that I was talking about that's north of the fulcrum point that had this little naked area right there. And I said, what, last night we might see quake activity in that area. 4.4 down at 200. That's just that spot. I was saying we might see something up there. I'm not saying I predicted it, but 4.1 down at 214. We got a 4.3 down at 49 there. Let's do America really quick, and then we'll come back to that spot in Africa. All right, coming in here, nothing up by the Kamchatka, really small microquaking going up through the fulcrum points up there in Alaska, coming down through this region into Rwanda, Fuca. You can see we've had a few quakes here. We still have that pressure in the region, pushing 3.6 at 3.6. Or yeah, the magnitude matches the depth. Funny, 3 6s, 3 6s. So a 3.6 right there. Now this is on this plate because there's pressure above and below all this region. So it's hitting on all 3 plates. There's a 3.6 on that one. There's a 2.3 on this plate. Then on the Pacific plate below is 2.2, 3.2. Look at that 3.2. At the depth of it is 0.1. Jeez. And then this one, please. 2.9 down to 6.1. Okay, so activity starting to pick up around this region again on all 3 plates. Yes? No? All 3 plates? Okay. Remember, coming in here. Bingo, right there is our spot. So above, below, all 3 plates. Nothing pushing inland. We got our geysers doing their job, keeping magnitudes down to like 1.7 there through the Bay Area. We have that region that's building off of here in pressure. Look how quiet it is along the San Andreas right now. That's spooky. Let's come back to that really quick here. This region right here, see all this red approaching the coast right there? That's right where the San Andreas, and it looks like it's pushing under the land as well. We do have a pretty good hotspot, this whole field growing out there. So when pressure's increasing in the area and we see it go quiet like that, that's an indicator we might be seeing a big quake coming here pretty soon. All right, because look how quiet. There's, relief up here, but look at that whole strip. There's usually something going on along there. So watch out that whole area. That's just spooky how quiet it is there. I want to touch base with this region really quick. It's been taking turns with the fulcrum point. All right, still seeing activity there, a little further south now. Okay, that's fine. Current activity, what's going on out here? We got a little quake swarm going on out here by Goldfield, probably. Yeah, Goldfield, Nevada. Okay, so relieving pressure in that area and having current activity. Volcanic field right by it. Okay, let's continue. All right, we're going to have to watch out through that region, okay? Hopefully it's nothing too big. We see mid-range 4 crack off. It'll relieve some pressure. All right, here's this eyeball type structure right here coming out into the water, going back into the plate boundary being the backside of it. That is where we're seeing this increase in heat in that area. So I believe we're going to see an uptick in activity and magnitude in that region. And look along the edge of the structure. There's activity. It's not much, but it's right along the structure. Right inside of it, a little bit. Don't be surprised we see activity out here in the water here pretty soon. 2.7 there. All right. We also had a couple of patches that were growing in this region, but they seem to be kind of relieving their pressure just by heat, and there's no earthquake activity, but there could, you can see the potential for something cracking off in that area. Whew, a lot to cover. All right, so really quick, quiet as far as these volcanoes, any kind of microquaking along these volcanoes along the west coast. Very, very quiet there. 1.9 there. All right. Man-made perforations in the crust here. 2.9 in New Mexico. This activity in Texas down there as far south as, please. 2.9 in Stockdale, Texas. Right at the surface, 4.6. Okay, so pressure coming up through these man-made perforations. Now, here we go in the New Madrid area, you guys. 2.9. Look how close. It's at 0.1. That is right at the surface. That was cutting the grass right there. Almost a 3 right there. And then at the fulcrum point of this structure right here, you can see we got a 2.2 down at 7.5. So a couple of little quakes right in this region are an indication that pressure is pushing up in this area and it's starting to react. Nothing up through the craton, but you can see we had a couple of little activity right here in the New Madrid area. So that area is coming to life when we get an influx of pressure from down below. Real quick here, 4.4 at 60, magnitude checks here, 3.5 and a 3.1. That's about normal for that region. Okay, coming over to Africa, because this is going to blend into our volcano report tonight as well. So let's just touch base with the earthquakes first. We have a 5.8 at the surface there, or at 10 kilometers. I'd consider that pretty shallow, the surface. A 5.8 and a 5.5, both very shallow right there. Another 5.2, so 3 magnitude plus, a 4.7, a 4.4, and a 4.6. All right, so this area right here has had a lot of activity lately and volcano activity waking up. We have this little one right here. It's a dormant volcano. And then we got this activity right here. Now, when we get into our volcano report here, let me get this out of there. Dig that out and open up a volcano report here. Bear with me for a second here. I'm not the most high-tech dude in the world here, so. What did that just say? Wait a second. That can't be right. 38 erupting and 37 in warning. Now we've had another one added. We're at 75. What? There we go. That's a little better. Trying to get them wavy lines out of there. Okay, so 75 volcanoes. Yeah, 38 erupting, 37, yeah, 75. So we've been adding volcanoes a lot lately, huh? We were at 70 just the other day, and now we're at 75. And if I'd have told you 7 years ago when all this stuff started happening to me that 7 years from now we would have 75 volcanoes, you would have said, Brian, you are crazy. Well, here we are 7 years later, and we have 75 active volcanoes, and I'm still crazy about you. Now, let's get into it. Semeru, okay. Tsunosujima exploded 5,000 feet. Semeru, 15,000. Okay, so it's pumping its maximum almost. And that's just in the last few minutes. They're not really reporting too much. Let's get into this one. Okay. There's your map of insanity. All kinds of volcanoes through this region and through that region, keeping earthquake activity and magnitudes down. Okay. That is the lava dome inside of Shivaluj. Boom. Let's keep going here. I want to get to Kalikwi volcano, now a new active one. There's the earthquakes going on around that. All right. Afar, earthquakes in the Afar region, January 3rd. This is the volcano at in Africa right there. What I want to do is, where'd that little video go of it? Hang on here for a second. There was a video. Where did that go? All right, well, we'll find it in a sec. But here is a new vent that opened up in the ground. Pressure opened up a new vent, a new crack in the ground opened up, and now we're seeing SO2 and all kinds of steam and mud being ejected from that. Also, another thing, when you see stuff being ejected like that, mud could be super hot and cause stuff, bushes around the area to catch on fire as well. Okay, Shivaluj, Sakurajima, 6,000 feet, Suwanosejima, 4, Kanlone, 9,000. Ibu, 7,000. I'd be with you at 7,000. Luatobi, 7,000. Samaru, 15,000. Popocatépetl, 19. Santa Guido, 14. Fuego, 14. Nevada del Ruiz, 19. Sangay, 20. Reventador, unable to detect. Now, Dauphin in Ethiopia. This is the one I want to talk about. Strong earthquakes continue to hit the area, and another quake, probably around magnitude 5, was reported. We had 3 of them there, so we just showed you the quakes. A new vent producing powerful jet of gas, rocks, and mud has been observed at Dauphin volcano. All right, that's just north of that little vent area. It's right in this area. So it's right in the middle of all this activity going on right in here. We'll continue with that. Close this out, please. So a new spot has opened up. Now, the other night I was telling you how many are active ones could go full eruption, or we could see a new one open up. Well, here we are with all this activity, earthquake activity in this region, and now we've had a new vent open up. All right. Now, this is an area closest to the ongoing seismic swarm, which we suspect to be caused by the intrusion of magma. The embedded video below, although not clear enough to see much detail, shows it might. Let's get to that video, please. There it is. All right. All right. Pressure coming up from down below. So much so that it breaks a new spot open in the ground. You see these mud thing flying out too? They're super hot. Okay, so this is what some of our SO2 plumes sites are starting to do now. We're starting to open up new tears in the crust and pressure shooting out. Okay, and that's your new volcano, brand new volcano right there, just opened up in the ground, in the middle of the jungle right there. And that's this new one here at Dauphin in Ethiopia. Okay, a new vent producing powerful jet gas, rocks, and mud. All right, because we've had solar activity and pressure has built up down below. Remember I said you might see something new open up? Well, there's your new vent right there. A new pathway of least resistance. Now its pressure's reached the surface and it's being relieved. Okay? Crazy how we talk about this stuff and then the very next day it happens. It's just getting spooky. All right, so there is your Dauphin, Ethiopia, new earthquake, or new volcano. All right, show less, thank you. Now, we have Fontali, which is right next to it. That's the cone one. There are no signs of activity slowing down there. The local newspaper said that over 30 houses have been destroyed by recent quakes and hundreds of people have left their homes as precautionary and either camping outside or fleeing to other areas. The most affected areas include the Awash, Fentanyl, and Delucia districts, especially the village of Central Cavalier, where the sugar factory. Okay, the latter, with the capacity of holding 500 million cubic liters of fresh water, is giving warnings to whether this dam up there will withstand the seismic activity. So there's a dam up there by this sugar factory, this Kesem Dam, and it has 500 million cubic liters of fresh water. They're worried about that going. According to news articles, houses are collapsing day by day, and the entire community around the sugar factory has abandoned their homes. People are fleeing with whatever belongings they can carry, heading towards Awash Saba town. And the newspaper quotes local residents. Those who can afford it are using vehicles, while others are escaping on foot through the wilderness. Rural communities are loading their belongings onto camels and leaving with their livestock. Bunch of earthquakes happening in that area. And we had a vent open up right there. This Fentali could go off, or maybe it won't go off now because we have a new pathway of least resistance that just opened up right next to it. Okay, so we have a new volcanic vent here at Dauphin that opened up, and it's spewing gas, hot mud, and stuff. And we watched that whole area come to life just over the last few days. And no surprise that we have an opening there. Here's your list of currently erupting and your active ones. Now, sometimes it's an active one that goes full eruption, but sometimes we see a new vent open up, okay, just like we did there. I say this every time because that's the case. And here, Dauphin is now on this. I would say it was erupting. It should be over here. But there it is, added to the list. And Fentali, too. Or Fontali, Fantail, however you want to say it. Fentanyl. It's not fentanyl, but these lists are insane. This is so much activity going on. Alrighty, let's move on. Let's get to our tropical tidbits and our weather. Now that we've had so much volcanic ash go into the air, it is now raining down and going into the atmosphere, mixing with water in the air, causing weird fog, causing boric acid crystals to deposit on cars and stuff like that. So you're starting to see effects from all this ash in the air. And they're, whoopsie, wrong link. They are particulates, and water likes to adhere to them. So the more particulates and the more water vapor that we have evaporating into the air, we have just the fuel to the fire and more wind to the fire too. So here's your insane weather forecast. Now we're going to see this activity through the middle of the country here. We're also seeing stuff growing right there. There's the morning of the 4th, noon, convection. So at convection tomorrow, this ice storm's going to start taking place. A lot of people have covered it now, and I think it's gotten some fair coverage to where the people in this region should not be caught off guard. Although they will be, because they're not used to having ice storms like this. So that's starting at convection tomorrow. There's the nighttime, the morning of the 5th, noon, convection. This is still the identical model run we were seeing before with these QLCS little bands starting to form behind there. At this juncture, at the convection of the 5th tomorrow, you're going to have nasty, nasty weather. And we're talking about very, very intense ice storm. Okay, very thick ice. It's going to take down power lines, tree limbs, all kinds of structures roofs and stuff might collapse. Okay, so you might see some roof collapses and stuff like that. Possible spin-ups and tornadoes in these QLCSs. Deep snow or heavy snow, strong winds, power outages, every little thing that goes with this. Strong wind, hail as well. Okay, and then the icing event being the main part. There goes through the nighttime with still quasi-linear convective storm bands down there. Then we go into the morning hours of the 6th, still intense icing until the noontime of the 6th, and then off the coast by convection of the 6th, morning or nighttime, morning of the 7th, noon, convection, nighttime, morning of the 8th, noon, convection, nighttime, morning of the 9th, noon. You see this cold air pocket that reached all the way down into Mexico. You see this low spinning down here. That is just awesome. Not awesome, it's good, but just can't believe what I'm looking at. Then we have that heat signature in the Gulf, warm, moist air, already intense, severe weather there in the water. As this thing combines together at convection, driving up through the nighttime. Here we go, the morning with a little ice. There's the noontime with the ice. Convection, little ice storm right in the middle. Severe weather hitting the coastline there. Possible water spouts making landfall. Nighttime of the 10th. Morning of the 11th. All right, so that one changed a little bit. These are way out there in the future. Now you see another heat plume growing right there, getting pulled up. That one kind of dodged the cold air, so that's good. Here comes another band of cold air coming in here. Right around, this is different. So noontime the 17th, and look at this severe weather repeating on the coast there. Look at this weird thing. Convection, nighttime the 17th. Morning of the 18th. Let's pray that doesn't happen. Noon the 18th. Convection, nighttime, 19th, noon, convection, nighttime. Okay, and that's about it. Really, our next concern, or event of concern, is this big, huge icing event through the middle of the country right there. Everybody hunker down and get ready for that. And my suggestion is just to hunker down. Don't try to go out in it and get sideways in your car and, pretend that you can drift or whatever, because this ice is black ice, and you can't like stop on it. Your vehicle just continues to go. So any kind of hills, if you live on a hill and it's got icing on it, I wouldn't put your car out on the road. It'll just slide right down the hill. So there's going to be accidents, travel delays. Okay, this is the middle of the country where a lot of flights connect, so it could cause some flight connection delays. And right there, that's some intense icing. And here, the convection, the afternoon of the 5th is where you're really going to see the intensity from that point into the nighttime right there. That time frame right there is just going to be really gnarly. January 5th, the afternoon of January 5th, well, actually starting before it, starting the nighttime of the 4th, tomorrow night. Boom. So you have few hours still to get prepared if you're in that region, or to let loved one know, prepare for impact. All right, so there's your weather, there's everything, your astrophysics, geophysics, and now let's do our spiritual report, what some call the metaphysics. Basically how you work. All righty, so let's pull up some images to read to tonight. Some of you are kicking butt at this, and some people are still doubting and struggling, and that's okay. All right. We'll just get there one step at a time. So, pulling up some images here. Oh, I wonder if we still have that one from third phase of moon. Where'd that go? This big face too. If we can get past the edge here. Bear with me just a second. Or bear with YouTube just a second and say, yeah, I've got to have their ad in there. Thank you for covering the storm. I'm in south central Kansas, and we're going to get hammered by up to an inch of ice and snow. Yeah. I live in the mountains. We deal with ice a lot. So salt, an ice chipper. One of the good things to do is say you've got ice buildup and the afternoon hits, and now the ground is heated up, and the ground is melting the ice from the underside, and you can chip up the ice and get it off of the ground in the afternoon before the sun goes down, and it sets up again and turns and refreezes back to the ground. So your best option is to try to get it up like during the afternoon, the warmest part of the day when it's melted. Okay. Meanwhile, here's another face in the clouds right here, captured by somebody else. This was sent into a UFO channel, and they thought it was just kind of creepy. But here, let's just play this really quick.
Like the photos of the phenomenon as well. And somebody sent us this. Guys, what's going on over here in Virginia, Hampton? Some people might say this is pareidolia or something else. Maybe weather manipulation. It's terrifying as all.
We won't let him say the last word there. But it is a little terrifying if you don't know what's going on and you're starting to see activity like this and you're going, wait a second, what's going on here? But my audience understands what's going on here. So this stuff shouldn't scare them. Okay, so there's my face showing up again in the clouds. A little creepier this time, but it's still more of this activity in the clouds. Okay, you see me coming in the clouds. This is my face again in the clouds. Getting crazy here. How all this stuff is really panned out and it's all coming true. It's all because of, well, what happened to me. You guys like to know what happened? I think you already do. A lot of you have been paying attention and watching, so maybe we will cover some of that a little bit. Maybe we'll just do the reading first, and then we can go cover that stuff a little bit. How about that? Because some people are here for the reading. Okay. Let me go. Let's play this just a tad bit.
Howdy, folks. Welcome
Because I want
back.
the zoom part.
Snapping some pictures of the clouds yesterday, and I noticed something forming in the clouds. What looked like a face over here, and I'm gonna start zooming in on.
There we go, right there. Never mind the face, it's who's projecting it. There's Jesus captured in the clouds, pulling open his shirt, exposing his heart. It's radiating out these waves, making faces in the clouds, okay? My face in the clouds, just like that other face you saw in the clouds, all right? So my face is showing up in the clouds. It's coming from the Holy of Holies, Jesus' heart right there. Okay, so there's one of our images for reading to tonight, and we'll kind of stick with that one for a minute. And we got these as well, and pull that up a little bit. All right, let's get started, shall we? Well, what did I have for you guys tonight here? So we have all kinds of activity going on in the news that's very disturbing. It's hard to unplug from. It's so like intriguing, and there's so much going on. All right, so it's important that we take a break from that and all these activities and realize it's all part of the process. Okay, we are actually going through a process, and when you understand that, it makes it a lot easier to bear it and to go through it. And is that where I want to start? Okay, so a lot of people are doing activities that can be scary, and that's man doing stuff. And the fear of man is a snare. Okay, a snare is a kind of trap or something that entangles you, making it difficult for you to escape from. So fear of man involves being overly concerned about what others think of you. Okay, we're going to talk about that aspect, and then also the aspect of what man is doing right now. These terrorist activities and all kinds of weird revelations coming out from what people are doing, right? So that's another form of the fear of man, okay? But there's this fear of man, which involves being overly concerned about what others think of you. It's an unhealthy, ungodly focus, seeing yourself through the eyes of others. Now, this fear can be crippling and it's full of distortions. Other people's view of you are distorted by their sinful nature. It's almost impossible to know what they really think about you. So when you view yourself from others' perspectives, you add your own distortions to theirs. So as you strive to present an acceptable persona, you become trapped. Some of us get caught in that snare. Okay, we're too worried and caught up about what others think about us. I get caught up in it too, and it can be crippling. Okay, so got to remember not to view yourself from the perspective of others, because you add your own distortions to theirs, and you're not even sure what they think about you either. So you're kind of wasting time when you're doing that. So when you realize that the fear of man is motivating you, controlling your thoughts and behavior, come to me, and at your request, I will forgive you for making others' views of you into an idol. Because that can be a problem too. We're too consumed about how we look and what we're wearing and how we're appearing in the eyes of others, and that becomes an idol too. So I can forgive you for making others' views of you into an idol. I will help you break free from these entanglements. So affirm your trust in me and take time to enjoy my presence. And as you forget about yourself and focus on me, your loving Lord, you grow increasingly free. I am the one who keeps your lamp burning. I turn your darkness into light, don't I? Sometimes when you're weary and you're burdened, you may feel as if your lamp is about to go out. It seems to be flickering and sputtering, on the verge of running out of fuel. So whenever this happens, call out to me for help. Take some deep breaths in my presence, and remember that I am the one who fuels your lamp. I am your strength. I also keep your light too. I am also your light. Keep turning towards me, letting the glory of my presence soak into you. There. Get that right there. Take some deep breaths in my presence and remember that I am the one who fuels your lamp. I am your strength. I am also your light. Keep turning toward me, letting the glory of my presence soak into you. My radiant beauty brightens your life and changes your perspective. So when you turn away from me and forget that I'm with you, your world looks very dark. And indeed, there is much darkness in this deeply fallen world. But I am the light that shines on in the darkness. So do not be afraid. Trust me wholeheartedly, no matter how gloomy things may appear, and I will transform your darkness into light. I just do. It's by default. It just transforms your darkness into light. What's the other one that it goes? That, there it is. Okay. Take another sip right here. You know what? We missed this one too. I gotta have this image up there. Oh, I have to keep doing the wrong one. Come back.
Meet a digital.
Of course. Can't just have the thing pop up even though I want to. Okay, boom. Again, this again. Where did it go again? When you realize that the fear of man is motivating you, controlling your thoughts and behavior, come to me. I am the one who keeps your lamp burning. I turn your darkness into light. Then I am training you to be an overcomer, to find joy in the midst of circumstances that previously would have defeated you. Okay, you've already made it through some circumstances that previously would have defeated you. You guys are overcoming stuff now in a way that you probably would have had a bunch of hassles before, huh? So I am training you to be an overcomer, to find joy in the midst of your circumstances that previously would have defeated you. Your ability to transcend trouble is based on this rock-solid fact. I have overcome the world. I have already won the ultimate victory, and nonetheless, I taught you will have trouble in this world, so expect to encounter many difficulties as you continue this journey through life. You inhabit a planet that is always at war, and the enemy of your soul never rests. But don't be afraid, because he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And this is good reason to rejoice. So when you're in the midst of a challenging circumstance, it's crucial to keep trusting me. Whisper, I trust you, Jesus, as often as you need, and remember that I am always near. Ask me to help you learn all that I have for you in this trial, and look for the flowers of joy growing in the rich soil of adversity. How about that? The flowers of joy growing in the rich soil of adversity. Okay. The rich soil. Can we get rid of this part? There we go. So when you're in the midst of challenging circumstances, it's crucial to keep trusting me. Prayers, scripture, I trust you, Jesus. God, grant me the serenity to accept the conditions I cannot change. That one, you can change that prayer however you need to. And if I have to say it a couple of times for it to settle in, that's great. Till it settles in, as long as it does. Ask me to help you learn all that I have for you in this trial. Look for the flowers of joy growing in the rich soil of adversity, and then the sunlight of my face is shining upon you, which makes those flowers bloom. The sunlight of my face is shining on you, making your flowers of joy bloom in that rich soil of adversity. Pretty deep stuff, but you guys are getting it, and you're picking it up, and you're doing it. Some of you guys are actually trying this and finding the relief, the joy, it's just a struggle, but then you realize it's a struggle, and now you're gaining strength in your adversity. So, again, here we're going to start with this one again. My face is shining upon you, beloved, so take time to linger in my joyous light and seek to know me as I truly am. I am always near you, closer than the air you're breathing. Awareness of my loving presence is a rich blessing. Awareness of my loving presence. Are you aware of the loving presence? Oh, you must be. My face is shining upon you. You're aware of my loving presence, because awareness of my loving presence is a rich blessing. However, the most important thing is to trust that I am with you regardless of what you're experiencing. Well, we're making that a little easier now. It's easier when you're starting to see real miracles taking place here. It's a lot easier to trust that I'm actually with you. And my face keeps showing up all over the place in clouds, other people capturing it, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. Okay. So trust is another thing that's important. The most important thing is to trust that I am with you regardless of what you're experiencing. And that can be hard too sometimes. You're in the middle of something going, really? This can't be from God. Well, it is. It's testing you. So I am always present throughout your entire day. I am also transcendent, existing above and independent from the universe. I am the King, eternal, immortal, invisible to some, visible to the ones who have eyes that see. And as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Therefore, don't expect to fully understand me or my ways. Okay, you'll never fully understand, but we can get there step by step. When things don't go as you think they should be willing to bow before my infinite wisdom and knowledge, and my judgments are unsearchable and my paths are beyond tracing out, but they are good. So remember the example of Job. When his family experienced multiple disasters, he fell to the ground in worship. I transcend all your troubles. Your troubles are signs that you're on the path, right? And as you keep overcoming the world, your circumstances in the day kind of put a sour note on the day, right? You heard the news and it was bad news and wasn't what you were expecting, and it kind of rattled your day. But you still have a company coming over, so you got to regain composure so you don't lose it in front of them. So you are overcoming your circumstances. Every time you do, you're overcoming the world, okay? Not the planet, but society. The world, the society, okay? This fallen society. So when they get you down and you overcome it and you refuse to, let it get you down, that's a victory. That's a glory. And you do it twice in a day, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 6 times in a day. And each time you do, you go from glory to glory to glory in your tribulation. And you victories like this, we chalk them up, we make little glories out of them, little collage here. So in the end, you will get to see all that you've done, all your glories. And while we're in this time right now, while we're waiting patiently, we persevere, salvaging our day, going from glory to glory in our tribulation. Okay, you guys picked it up. Some of you are just really progressing with this, and we'll continue going through this process. Okay, I know a lot of people don't like part of this show, and some people do. So for those of you who do, you're part of a very, very exclusive royal family. Okay, not like the British royal family. Okay, if you see this face in the cloud right here with this crown, that means you see me coming in the clouds with power and great glory. See this? This is me coming in the clouds with power and great glory. Here again, here I am in the clouds coming with power and great glory. And even out by the moon, because you will see signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Here's my face out by the moon. Just kind of let you know I'm all over the place, all right? You are indeed caught up like a good book or a good song or good YouTube live stream. You're caught up with me in the clouds. It's intriguing. It's mysterious. It's fascinating. And we're getting to know each other. That's pretty cool too, huh? So you're caught up with me in the clouds, where we meet in the air of cyberspace, because I can't come over and give you a big hug right now. So caught in the cloud, caught up with me in the clouds. We meet in the air, where I've provided a place here at YouTube that where I am, you may be also. So that's it. You're raptured. The word rapture not in the Bible, but if you understand the Bible and it's meant to be understood spiritually, well, then you'll understand what you're looking at here. You have been technically raptured. Your faith has been completed into knowing. And now, while we wait patiently, we persevere, salvaging our day, and you guys are kicking ass at this. So keep going, keep doing it, and keep being that light. Bring that light into other people's lives. That's it for tonight. I love you all. I miss you all. And until my next show, I will be back. I am already back. Can't you tell? That's it for tonight. Love you all. Bye. Wait. Thank you, Susan, Marcia, Leslie. Oh, Marcia. Oh, Scan family. Susan, thank you for being here. We have to hand out some wrenches here. As soon as I get caught up, there's Misty. Jeremy, thank you for being here. Angel Wings. Yeah, as soon as I get caught up on some of my homework here at home, I'll give out some more wrenches there. All right, that's it for tonight. I will be back. I am already back. I am a man of my word. Can't you tell? I love you until the next show. Bye.